There comes a quiet day when you notice how tired you are. Not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. Not the kind that shows on your face. It is a deeper tiredness. The kind that settles in the chest after too many explanations. After too many attempts to be understood. After too many steps taken toward someone who never quite turns around. At first, you do not call it exhaustion. You call it hope. You tell yourself that if you try once more, speak a little clearer, give a little more, they will finally see you. And so you continue. You reach out again. You soften your words. You adjust your tone. You replay conversations in your mind, searching for the mistake that must have been yours. But slowly, something inside you begins to ache. Have you ever noticed how heavy it feels to always be the one who moves first? How strange it is to stand in front of someone who listens but does not truly hear. You begin to feel as though you are knocking on a door that was never meant to open. Still, you knock. Because part of you believes that effort equals love. That persistence equals loyalty. That if you stop trying, you are the one who failed. So you keep running, not loudly, not desperately, just quietly. A message sent, a kind word offered, an apology given, even when you are not sure what you are apologizing for. You tell yourself it is strength to keep reaching. You tell yourself it is maturity to keep understanding. But each time they step back, something inside you grows smaller. There is a moment, though, when the running slows. It does not happen with anger. It does not happen with a dramatic goodbye. It happens in silence, perhaps late at night when the world is still and there is no one to impress. You sit with your thoughts, and for the first time, you feel how tired your heart has become. Why am I always the one chasing? You wonder quietly. The question does not accuse. It simply floats there, gentle and honest. You begin to notice patterns you once ignored. How quickly you respond. How carefully you choose your words. How deeply you fear losing someone who does not seem afraid of losing you. You see how often you bend, how often you adjust, how often you silence your own needs so that things do not fall apart. And then another question comes. If I stopped, what would happen? It is a frightening thought because chasing has become familiar. Effort has become your proof of worth. If you are not reaching, who are you? If you are not fixing, persuading, convincing, what remains? The silence answers slowly. Do you remain underneath the effort? Underneath the effort? Underneath the explanations, there is a person who has been running for so long that they forgot how to stand still. A person who believed love had to be earned again and again. A person who thought being chosen required constant motion. But what if it does not? What if the right connections do not require pursuit? What if understanding does not need to be forced? What if dignity grows in stillness? You feel a quiet sadness as these thoughts settle in. Not bitterness, not blame, just the soft grief of realizing you have been giving more than you needed to give. They may not notice your exhaustion. They may not see how many times you reached, but you see it now. And that awareness is gentle, but powerful. The day you stop running does not begin with a loud decision. It begins with a pause, a long breath, a moment where you choose not to send the message, not to explain again, not to defend what is already true. It feels unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable. But in that stillness, something fragile begins to grow. When you first choose silence, it does not feel strong. It feels like loss. There is an emptiness where your effort used to live. The space where you once reached out now sits still. And in that stillness, doubts begin to whisper. Did I give up too soon? Did I misunderstand? Should explain just one more time. They continue as they always have. Perhaps they speak less. Perhaps they turn colder. Perhaps they tell their own version of the story, and you hear, in subtle ways, that your quiet has been noticed, but not understood. They may believe you are proud. They may say you have changed, and part of you aches when you realize they do not see the truth, that your silence is not anger, but protection. Not pride, but exhaustion. Have you ever felt the sting of being misunderstood? When you are trying your hardest to remain calm, it is a lonely feeling. You want to correct them. You want to say, "You do not know how much I cared." You want to remind them of the times you waited, the times you forgave, the times you stayed when leaving would have been easier, but something inside you hesitates. You remember how tired you were, how small you felt while chasing understanding, and you ask yourself, gently, if I speak now, will it truly change anything? Silence at this stage feels like standing alone in a wide field. No applause. No reassurance, just you and your thoughts. And in that open space, your heart trembles a little, because being misunderstood touches a deep fear, the fear of being seen wrongly, the fear of being painted as the one who did not care enough, the fear that your quiet will be mistaken for indifference. It would be so easy to react, to defend, to send one long message explaining everything, to remind them of your kindness, and yet you wait. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you are beginning to understand that not every misunderstanding needs correction. Some people hear only what confirms what they already believe. Some people see only what fits their story. And if you speak from a place of hurt, will they truly listen? This is the uncomfortable part, the part where you must sit with the weight of their assumptions, where you must allow them to think what they think, where you must accept that you cannot control how you are perceived. It feels unfair. You cared. You tried. You gave your time and your patience. And now your silence is being judged. But beneath the discomfort, there is a quiet shift happening. For the first time, you are choosing not to fight for approval, not to beg for understanding, not to twist yourself into clearer shapes so that someone else feels comfortable. You begin to see something important. If someone truly wished to understand you, would they not ask? Would they not pause and look closer? Would they not notice your steady efforts before your silence? The realization is soft but steady. Your worth does not shrink simply because someone misreads you. Your truth does not disappear simply because it is not acknowledged. You do not become less just because they choose a different version of the story, and so you remain quiet, not in resentment, not in punishment, but in restraint. The discomfort is still there. It sits with you in the evenings. It reminds you that being misunderstood is never pleasant, but it no longer controls you. Instead of reacting, you observe. Instead of defending, you breathe. Instead of chasing clarity in someone else's mind, you protect clarity in your own. And slowly, silence begins to feel less like loss and more like dignity. There is a quiet power in not reacting. At first, it feels unnatural. Your mind still forms responses. Your heart still prepares defenses. Words rise to your lips, ready to explain, ready to correct, ready to prove. But you let them settle. You allow them to pass through you like a wave that does not need to crash. They may test your silence. They may speak in ways that once would have pulled you into long conversations. They may say things that invite you to defend yourself. There may be moments when a single sentence from them could easily awaken the old habit of chasing, and you feel it, that familiar urge to respond quickly, to clear the air, to make sure you are not misunderstood again. But this time, you pause. You ask yourself a gentle question. What will my reaction truly give me? Ideal, will. Bri, Ning, peace. Will it restore balance, or will it only pull you back into the same circle you have walked too many times before 5 rand? Silence, when chosen with awareness, is not weakness. It is control. It is the decision to guard your energy instead of scattering it. It is the quiet understanding that not every invitation deserves your presence. There is strength in allowing someone to speak without feeling the need to answer. There is dignity in letting assumptions float away without chasing them down. There is maturity in knowing that your truth does not require constant defense. For a long time, you believed that love meant effort without limit. That care meant explaining again and again until they finally understood. That connection required you to bend so far that you almost disappeared. But now you are learning something different. You are learning that effort without respect becomes exhaustion. That explaining without listening becomes noise. That bending too often slowly erases the shape of who you are. And so you stand still, not rigid, not cold, just steady. They may think you are simply tired. They may believe you will return to your old pattern soon enough. After all, you always did before. But something inside you has shifted. You no longer feel the same urgency. You no longer feel responsible for fixing every silence, smoothing every tension, filling every gap. You begin to see that when you react to every word, you give others control over your peace. Each comment becomes a button. Each misunderstanding becomes a trigger. And your inner world becomes fragile easily shaken. Is that strength, or is strength the ability to remain calm when waves rise around you? Ideas, the more you choose not to react, the clearer your mind becomes. You notice how many past arguments were born, not from truth, but from wounded pride. How many explanations were given not to heal, but to be right. How many apologies were offered simply to avoid distance. Restraint begins to feel less like silence forced upon you, and more like silence chosen by you. You are no longer quiet because you are afraid to speak. You are quiet because you understand the cost of unnecessary words. You are quiet because you value your inner balance more than temporary validation. And in that restraint, something beautiful grows with self-respect. It grows slowly, like a tree that does not rush toward the sky. It deepens its roots first. It becomes firm in the ground before reaching outward. Your calm becomes your foundation. Your pause becomes your protection. They may continue, as they always have. They may never fully understand why you stopped reacting, but that is no longer your burden. You are discovering that peace is not found in winning arguments. It is not found in being seen as right. It is found in the quiet certainty that you do not have to answer every call to conflict. And as you sit there, listening to your own steady breath, you realize something simple and powerful. You are no longer chasing. You are choosing. After a while, the silence no longer feels heavy. It feels spacious. The same quiet that once echoed with doubt now carries a softer sound. Your thoughts move more slowly. Your heart does not race to fix what is not yours to fix. You wake each day without the familiar pressure to reach out, to check, to mend what was never fully in your hands. They may still live as they always have. They may come closer for a moment, then drift away again. They may speak warmly one day and coldly the next. But something inside you has become steady. Their movements no longer decide yours. You notice this change in small ways. When their words arrive, you read them without rushing to respond. When silence stretches between you, you no longer fill it with fear. When distance appears, you do not chase it down the road. You let it be. There is a quiet understanding that settles in your chest. What is meant to stay does not require pursuit. What is true does not demand constant proof. What is real does not vanish, simply because you stopped running. At first, you feared that if you did not chase, you lose everything. That love would slip away. That connection would fade. That you would be forgotten. But now you see something different. If something can be lost simply because you stopped overextending yourself, was it ever secure? If someone walks away because you chose dignity over desperation, were they ever truly beside you? These questions no longer hurt the way they once did. They feel clear, almost gentle. You begin to feel a new kind of confidence. Not loud, not proud, just quiet certainty. The kind that does not need to announce itself. The kind that rests calmly in the background of your life. You no longer measure your worth by who stays or who leaves. You no longer bend to fit into places that require you to shrink. You no longer explain your silence to those who never tried to understand your voice. Instead, you keep your peace. It is a simple thing, peace. It does not shine brightly. It does not draw attention. It feels like sitting alone without restlessness. It feels like breathing without heaviness. It feels like knowing that you are enough, even when no one is watching. There is freedom in this. Freedom from rehearsing conversations in your mind. Freedom from wondering if you said too much or too little. Freedom from carrying the responsibility of other people's perceptions. They are allowed to think what they think. They are allowed to walk wash ere they choose, and you are allowed to remain whole. You may still feel moments of sadness. You may still remember the times you tried so hard, but those memories no longer control you. They simply remind you of how far you have come. You did not become cold. You did not become indifferent. You simply became careful with your energy. You learned that silence can protect what constant talking once exposed. You learned that self-respect is quieter than approval, but far more lasting. And now, when you sit alone, you do not feel abandoned. You feel grounded. The need to chase has faded into something wiser. You understand that connection should feel mutual, not forced. That presence should feel natural, not negotiated. That love, in its truest form, does not require you to lose yourself. So you remain still, not waiting, not chasing, not proving, just living with a calm heart. And in that calm, there is a quiet strength that no one can take from you.